The snow was falling in thick curtains across the Wyoming plains when Liam Tucker first saw her stumbling through the drifts with bare feet leaving small crimson marks in the white expanse behind her. He reined in his horse so hard that the gelding snorted in protest, breath steaming in the frigid December air. It was 1883, and Liam had seen plenty of strange things in his 26 years working cattle drives and riding the wild country between Cheyenne and the Montana border, but never had he witnessed anything quite like this. The woman was perhaps 100 yards ahead, her thin dress clinging to her body, dark hair whipping around her face in the wind. She moved like someone caught in a nightmare, putting one foot in front of the other with mechanical determination even as her legs threatened to buckle beneath her. Liam spurred his horse forward, covering the distance in moments. "Madam," he called out, but she did not seem to hear him. He brought his horse alongside her and swung down from the saddle in one fluid motion. "Madam, what happened? Where are your shoes?" She turned to look at him with eyes that seemed to focus slowly, as if coming from a great distance. They were the color of sage in summer, green and gray mixed together, and they were filled with a kind of exhausted desperation that made his chest tighten. "I had to leave," she said, her words slurring slightly. "He was going to kill me this time." Before he could ask who, her eyes rolled back and she began to collapse. Liam caught her before she hit the ground, feeling how cold her skin was through the thin fabric of her dress. He looked down at her feet and saw they were cut and bleeding, already turning an alarming shade of blue. Without hesitation, he sat her down in the snow, supporting her against his knee while he yanked off his worn leather boots. His feet hit the frozen ground and he sucked in a sharp breath at the cold, but he worked quickly, sliding his boots onto her small feet. They were far too large, but they would protect her from the worst of it. "Come on now," he murmured, lifting her into his arms. She weighed next to nothing, all bone and sinew, like she had not eaten properly in weeks. He managed to get her up onto his horse, then climbed up behind her, wrapping his arms around her to keep her upright in the saddle. Her head lolled back against his chest, and he could feel her shivering violently. He shrugged out of his heavy coat and wrapped it around her as best he could while still maintaining control of the reins. The nearest town was Ardmore, about 15 miles south, but Liam knew she would never make it that far. His cabin was only 3 miles east, tucked into a sheltered valley where he had been working a small ranch for the past 2 years. It was not much, just 2 rooms and a stone fireplace, but it was warm and dry and it was close. He urged his horse into as fast a pace as he dared on the snow-covered ground, his feet going numb in his wool socks. The woman drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes murmuring words he could not quite make out. Once she said a name that might have been Warren, and another time she whimpered like a wounded animal. By the time Liam's cabin came into view, his feet felt like blocks of ice, and the woman had gone completely limp in his arms. He rode right up to the door, then carefully dismounted while holding her. He kicked the door open and carried her inside, laying her on his bed near the cold fireplace. He needed to get a fire going immediately. His fingers were clumsy as he worked to build up kindling and logs, striking sparks with flint and steel until flames finally caught and began to spread. The cabin started to warm almost immediately, the thick walls and low ceiling holding in the heat. Only then did he turn back to the woman. She was still shivering, her lips blue, her skin pale as milk. He knew about cold like this, had seen frostbite take men's fingers and toes. He needed to warm her up slowly and check the damage to her feet. With professional efficiency born of years of tending injured cattle and horses, he removed his oversized boots from her feet and examined them carefully. The cuts were not as deep as he had feared, though there was definitely frostbite starting on several toes. He filled a basin with cool water, not warm, knowing that warming frostbitten flesh too quickly could cause more damage. As he tended to her feet, carefully washing away the blood and dirt, she began to stir. Her eyes opened and fixed on him with sudden panic. She tried to pull away, scrambling back on the bed. "Easy now," Liam said, holding his hands up to show he meant no harm. "You're safe. I found you out in the snow, do you remember?" She looked around the cabin wildly, taking in the rough wooden walls, the simple furniture, the fire crackling in the hearth. Her gaze came back to him, and he saw her shoulders slowly relax, though wariness remained in her eyes. "You gave me your boots," she said, her voice hoarse. "Yes, madam. Could not very well let you freeze to death. Where am I? My cabin, about 3 miles north of Ardmore, Wyoming. I am Liam Tucker. What is your name?" She hesitated, and he could see her weighing whether to trust him. Finally, she said, Willa Oakes." "Well, Miss Oakes, can you tell me what happened to you? How did you end up out there with no shoes in a snowstorm?" Her face clouded, and she looked away toward the fire. "I ran. My husband, he had been drinking. He was always bad when he drank, but tonight he had his gun out and he was waving it around, saying things. Saying I was no good, that I deserved to die. I believed him this time. So when he passed out in his chair, I ran. I did not think to get my shoes. I just ran." Liam felt anger kindle in his chest, hot and fierce. He had never understood men who hurt women, who used their strength to intimidate and control. "Where is he now? Where do you live?" "About 10 miles from here, north and west. A homestead. But please, you cannot make me go back. He will kill me." Her voice broke on the last words and tears began to slide down her cheeks. "I am not going to make you go back," Liam said firmly. "You can stay here as long as you need to, but I need to finish tending to your feet. Is that all right?" She nodded, wiping at her tears with the back of her hand. Liam returned to his work, gently patting her feet dry and then wrapping them in clean cloths. He found an extra pair of his wool socks and carefully pulled them on over the bandages. "You are lucky," he said. "The frostbite is not too bad. You should heal up fine if we are careful." "Thank you," Willa said softly. "I do not know why you are being so kind to me. You do not know me." Liam met her eyes and felt something shift in his chest, something he could not quite name. "Out here we help people when they need it. It is what decent folks do." He made her tea from his small supply, adding some precious sugar, and warmed up a pot of stew that had been sitting cold near the hearth. Willa ate slowly at first, then with increasing hunger, finishing 2 bowls before she finally sat back with a sigh. Color had begun to return to her face and she had stopped shivering. "I am sorry to be such a burden," she said. "You probably want your bed back." "You keep the bed," Liam said. "I will make do with blankets by the fire. You need the rest more than I do." But Willa shook her head. "I cannot take your bed. You already gave me your boots, your coat, your food. Please, I will be fine by the fire." They argued about it for a few minutes, but Liam finally conceded when he saw how distressed she was becoming. He made up a comfortable pallet of blankets near the hearth while he took the bed. As he lay there in the darkness, listening to the wind howl outside and the fire pop and crackle, he found himself thinking about the woman lying on his floor. She was beautiful, even half frozen and terrified. But more than that, there was something in her eyes that called to him, a strength that had carried her 10 miles through snow with no shoes rather than stay with a man who wanted to hurt her. Liam woke several times during the night to add wood to the fire and check on Willa. Each time he found her sleeping fitfully, sometimes crying out in her dreams. Once, he heard her sob the word please, and it made his hands clench into fists. He wanted to ride out right then, and find the man who had done this to her, but he knew that would only leave Willa alone and vulnerable again. Morning came with weak winter sunlight streaming through the cabin's single window. Liam rose and built up the fire again, then put coffee on to boil. The smell must have woken Willa because she stirred, sitting up slowly. "How are your feet?" he asked. She flexed them experimentally. "Sore, but not as bad as I expected. Thank you again for taking care of me. Let me take a look at them after breakfast." He made flapjacks from his dwindling supply of flour, and they ate together in companionable silence. Liam found himself stealing glances at her, noting the way the morning light caught in her dark hair, the delicate line of her jaw, the sad curve of her mouth. She caught him looking once, and a faint blush colored her cheeks, but she did not look away. After breakfast, Liam examined her feet again. The swelling had gone down slightly, and the color was better. "They are healing," he said with satisfaction. "But you should stay off them for a few days at least." "I cannot impose on you like that," Willa protested. "You have been more than kind already. Where else are you going to go? You said yourself your husband is dangerous." She bit her lip, looking troubled. "I thought perhaps I could go to Ardmore, find work there, maybe as a seamstress or a cook. Start over somewhere he will not find me." "Ardmore is a small town," Liam said carefully. "If your husband comes looking for you, he will find you there. And besides, you cannot walk all that way on feet that are barely healed. Just stay here for a few days, get your strength back. Then we will figure out what to do next." Willa looked at him for a long moment, and he could see her weighing her options. Finally, she nodded. "A few days. But I will not be a freeloader. Let me help with the cooking and cleaning at least." "Deal," Liam said with a smile. And so began the strangest and most wonderful week of Liam Tucker's life. Despite his protests, Willa insisted on making herself useful. She could not do much on her injured feet, but she could sit by the fire and mend his clothes, which desperately needed it. She cooked meals that were far better than anything he had managed on his own, somehow making his simple supplies of beans and salt pork taste delicious. They talked while they worked, sharing stories of their lives. Liam told her about growing up in Kansas, the youngest of 5 brothers, and how he had headed west at 18 looking for adventure. He told her about the cattle drives, the long nights under the stars, the wild beauty of the open range. He told her about buying this small piece of land 2 years ago, his dream of building a real ranch here. Willa told him about her childhood in Ohio, the daughter of a schoolteacher and a seamstress. She had married Willa Oakes when she was 19, drawn in by his promises of a new life in Wyoming. For the first year, things had been good. But then the homestead had failed, the crops dying in the harsh climate, and Warren had started drinking. The drinking had led to anger, and the anger had turned to violence. "I kept thinking he would change," Willa said softly one evening as they sat by the fire. "That he would wake up one day and be the man I married again. But he only got worse, and I realized I had 2 choices, leave or die." "You made the right choice," Liam said. "Leaving takes courage." It did not feel like courage, it felt like cowardice, running away in the night. Cowardice would have been staying and letting him kill you. What you did was survival. There is no shame in that. She looked at him with those sage-colored eyes and smiled, a real smile that transformed her whole face. "You are a good man, Liam Tucker." He felt his heart skip a beat. "I am just doing what anyone would do." "No," she said firmly. "Most people would have ridden past me in that snow, or they would have taken me to town and left me at the saloon or the church. You brought me to your home. You gave me your boots, your bed, your food. You have asked for nothing in return. That is not what just anyone would do." Liam did not know what to say to that, so he just nodded and stared into the fire, very aware of how close she was sitting to him. On the fourth day, Willa was able to walk around the cabin without too much pain. Liam went out to tend to his small herd of cattle and his horse, and when he came back inside, he found the cabin transformed. Willa had cleaned everything, scrubbing the floors and walls, organizing his scattered possessions, even washing his dirty clothes in melted snow water. The cabin smelled of soap and wood smoke and something else, something feminine and warm that made it feel like a home instead of just a place to sleep. "You did not have to do all this," he said, looking around in amazement. "I wanted to. You have done so much for me. It is the least I could do." That night, Liam killed one of his chickens and Willa made a feast of it, roasting it with wild onions she found in his stores and making gravy from the drippings. They ate until they were stuffed, talking and laughing, and Liam realized with a start that he was happier than he had been in years. Maybe ever. After dinner, Willa taught him to dance. She hummed a waltz she remembered from her childhood and showed him the steps, and they moved clumsily around the small cabin, bumping into furniture and laughing. At one point, Liam stepped on her foot, the injured one, and she gasped. He immediately stopped, apologizing profusely. "I am so sorry, are you all right?" But Willa was laughing, even as tears of pain stood in her eyes. "I am fine. It was worth it." He realized he was still holding her, one hand on her waist, the other clasping her hand. She was looking up at him, her face flushed from the dancing and the warmth of the fire. He could smell the soap she had used on her hair and see the flecks of gold in her green-gray eyes. His heart was pounding and he knew he should step back, should maintain proper distance, but he could not make himself move. "Willa," he said, his voice rough. "Yes. I know this is not proper and I know you have been through hell, but I have to tell you something. These past few days with you, they have been the best days I can remember. You make this place feel like a home. You make me feel like I am more than just a cowboy scraping by on a hardscrabble ranch, and I think I am falling in love with you." He saw surprise flash across her face, followed by something that looked like fear. She stepped back, breaking the contact between them. "Liam, you do not know what you are saying. I am still married, and I am broken. Warren broke something in me that I do not know can be fixed." "You are not broken," Liam said fiercely. "You are the strongest person I have ever met, and as for being married, that is just a piece of paper. That man does not deserve to call you his wife. But the law says I am his wife, and if he finds me, he has every right to take me back. The law gives husbands that right. Then we will go somewhere the law cannot reach. Montana, maybe, or Colorado. We will go somewhere you can be safe and free." Willa shook her head, but there were tears on her cheeks now. "You do not understand. You would be giving up everything for me. Your ranch, your home, I cannot ask that of you. You are not asking. I am offering. Willa, I have been alone for a long time. I have told myself I was happy that way, that I did not need anyone. But then you stumbled into my life, half frozen in the snow, and everything changed. I do not want to go back to being alone. I want to be with you." She was crying openly now, and Liam gently wiped the tears from her cheeks with his thumb. "I am scared," she whispered. "I am scared to trust this, to trust you. What if you turn out to be like Warren? What if I am making another mistake?" "I am not Warren," Liam said. "I will never hurt you, Willa. I will spend the rest of my life proving that to you if you will let me." For a long moment, she just looked at him, searching his face for something. Then, slowly, she nodded. "I think I am falling in love with you too, and that terrifies me." "We will be terrified together," Liam said, and then he kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, soft and questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. But she did not pull away. Instead, she wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him back, and Liam felt something in his chest crack open, some part of himself he had kept locked away for years. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Willa rested her forehead against his chest. "What do we do now?" she asked. "Now we make a plan. We figure out how to keep you safe and how to build a life together." Over the next few days, they talked through their options. Liam suggested they go to Cheyenne and find a lawyer, see if there was any legal way to dissolve Willa's marriage to Warren, but Willa was doubtful. "The law is not kind to women who leave their husbands," she said. "Even if he beats me, even if he tries to kill me, the law will likely say I belong with him." "Then we will go where the law does not care," Liam said. "We will go north to Montana or west to California. We will start over somewhere he cannot find you. But your ranch, you have worked so hard to build this place." Liam looked around the cabin at the life he had built here. It had seemed important once, his dream of building a cattle empire in Wyoming. But looking at Willa, he realized that dream was hollow without someone to share it with. "The ranch does not matter, you matter. We will build a new life somewhere else. You would really give all this up for me, in a heartbeat." Willa kissed him then, and Liam felt the rightness of it settle into his bones. This was what he had been looking for all those years riding the range, all those lonely nights under the stars. Not freedom or adventure, but someone to come home to, someone to build a life with. They were lying together on the bed, still dressed but wrapped in each other's arms when they heard the horse outside. Willa tensed immediately, her whole body going rigid. Liam felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. He got up quickly and went to the window, peering out through the gap in the curtain. A man was dismounting from a tired-looking horse, and even from this distance, Liam could see the rage in his movements. He was tall and heavily built, with a rough beard and clothes that looked like they had not been washed in weeks. He had a gun on his hip and a bottle in his hand. "Is it him?" Liam asked, though he already knew the answer. "Yes," Willa whispered, her face pale. "That is Warren." Liam's mind raced. He had his rifle, but he did not want to shoot a man if he could avoid it. But he also knew he would not let Warren take Willa. Not now, not ever. Warren started pounding on the door, the blows shaking the frame. "I know you are in there, Willa," he shouted. "I tracked you here. You belong to me, woman. You cannot run from me." Liam put his hand on Willa's shoulder. "Stay here, I will talk to him. No, he will hurt you. You do not know what he is like when he is drunk. I will not let him take you." Liam grabbed his rifle and opened the door, stepping outside and closing it firmly behind him. Warren looked at him with bloodshot eyes, swaying slightly on his feet. "Who the hell are you?" "I am the man whose land you are on, and I am going to have to ask you to leave." Warren laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Not without my wife. She is in there, is she not? I saw the smoke from the chimney, followed her tracks in the snow. Took me a few days, but I found her. Now step aside." "I cannot do that. You cannot keep a man from his own wife. That is against the law." "The law also says you cannot beat a woman near to death," Liam said evenly. "And from what I have heard, that is exactly what you were planning to do." Warren's face darkened. "What goes on between a man and his wife is not your business. Now get out of my way or I will move you." He took a step forward and Liam raised the rifle, not pointing it at Warren but making his intention clear. "I said leave. Your wife does not want to go with you and I will not let you force her." For a moment, the two men stared at each other, the tension thick as mud. Then Warren's hand dropped to his gun. "You are making a big mistake, friend. My name is Liam Tucker and I am not your friend." Warren drew his gun and everything seemed to slow down. Liam saw the weapon coming up, saw Warren's finger tightening on the trigger, and he reacted on instinct. He swung the rifle up and fired, the shot thunderously loud in the cold air. Warren's gun went flying from his hand, blood blooming on his sleeve where the bullet had grazed him. He howled in pain and fury, clutching his arm. "You shot me. You shot me, you son of a... I shot your arm because I am a decent shot. If I wanted you dead, you would be dead. Now get on your horse and leave. If you come back here, I will not aim for your arm next time." Warren looked at him with pure hatred, but he was also afraid now. Liam could see it in his eyes. He backed toward his horse, still clutching his bleeding arm. "This is not over. She is my wife. The law will side with me." "Then let the law come. But you are not taking her today." Warren mounted his horse with difficulty, still cursing. He pointed at Liam with his good hand. "You have made an enemy today, Tucker. You will regret this." "I already regret not shooting you somewhere more permanent. Now get off my land." Warren rode away, his curses fading into the wind. Liam stood there until he was sure the man was really gone, then lowered his rifle with a shaking hand. He had never shot a man before, not even in self-defense. His heart was pounding like a war drum. The door opened behind him and Willa came out, her face streaked with tears. "Oh, Liam. What have I done? I have brought this trouble to your door. He will go to the sheriff. He will say you tried to kill him. They will arrest you." "Let them try. I was defending myself and my property. Any court would see that." But they both knew it was not that simple. Warren was her legal husband, and the law gave him rights over her that superseded almost everything else. If he pressed charges, if he claimed Liam had stolen his wife, there could be real trouble. "We need to leave," Willa said. "We need to leave now before he comes back with the law." Liam knew she was right. He had thought they would have more time to plan, to prepare, but Warren's arrival had forced their hand. "All right. We will go to Cheyenne first, see if we can find help there. I have a friend who is a lawyer. Maybe he can help us figure this out legally." They worked quickly, gathering supplies and loading them onto Liam's horse. Liam strapped his rifle to the saddle and made sure they had enough food and water for the journey. Willa packed the few possessions she had acquired, including the boots Liam had given her, which she had kept even though they were far too large. "I am sorry about your ranch," she said as they prepared to leave. "I know how much this place meant to you." Liam looked at the cabin, at the small herd of cattle grazing in the distance, at the land he had worked so hard to claim. Then he looked at Willa, and the choice was easy. "A ranch is just land and buildings. It can be replaced. You cannot be replaced." They rode out as the sun was setting, heading south toward Cheyenne. The journey would take them several days, and they would have to be careful to avoid towns where Warren might have allies. Liam kept watching their back trail, but there was no sign of pursuit. That night, they made camp in a sheltered grove of trees, building a small fire for warmth. Willa sat close to Liam, shivering despite his coat wrapped around her shoulders. "What if this does not work?" she asked quietly. "What if we get to Cheyenne and the lawyer says there is nothing to be done? What if Warren finds us again? Then we keep going. We go to Montana or Oregon or anywhere we need to go. Willa, I meant what I said. I am not letting you go. Whatever it takes, we will find a way to be together." She looked at him with eyes that shone in the firelight. "I do not deserve you." "Yes, you do. You deserve happiness and safety and love. You deserve all the good things Warren never gave you." She kissed him then, and this time there was desperation in it, a need to feel something other than fear and uncertainty. Liam held her close, trying to give her the comfort and reassurance she needed. They did not do more than kiss and hold each other that night. They both knew there would be time for more later when they were safe and free. For now, this was enough. They reached the outskirts of Cheyenne 3 days later, having pushed hard and ridden long hours. The city was larger than Ardmore, with paved streets and tall buildings, and the constant noise of progress. Liam had been here a few times before, selling cattle and buying supplies, and he knew his way around reasonably well. His friend's office was on a side street near the courthouse, a small room above a general store. Jonathan Wheeling was a young lawyer, only a year older than Liam, but he had a sharp mind and a good heart. He greeted them warmly, listening intently as they explained the situation. "This is complicated," Jonathan said when they finished. "Wyoming law heavily favors the husband in these situations. Legally, Willa Oakes has the right to bring his wife home, even by force if necessary. The fact that he abused her is difficult to prove and, frankly, many judges would not care even if you could prove it. So there is nothing we can do." Willa asked, her voice small. "I did not say that. There are options, but none of them are simple. The first option is to go before a judge and petition for legal separation on grounds of cruelty. But that would require you to testify in detail about the abuse, and Warren would be able to challenge your testimony. It would be a public, ugly process, and there is no guarantee you would win." "What is the other option?" Liam asked. Jonathan hesitated. "The other option is more drastic. You disappear. You go somewhere remote, somewhere Warren cannot find you. You live as common law man and wife. After 7 years, depending on the territory, you could potentially claim to be legally married under common law statutes." 7 years of hiding," Willa said. 7 years of looking over our shoulders. I am afraid so. Or there is a third option, though it is risky. You could go to Warren and offer him money to agree to a divorce. Not all men would accept such an arrangement, but if he is more interested in drinking than in his wife, he might take the money and disappear. Liam thought about his savings, the money he had put aside from years of working cattle drives and selling beef. It was not a fortune, but it might be enough to tempt Warren. "How much would we need?" "That depends on Warren. A few $100s might do it, or it might not. The risk is that you would be meeting with a violent man who has already threatened to kill his wife. It could go very badly." Willa shook her head. "I do not want Liam anywhere near Warren again. He would kill him given the chance." "Then we go with option 2, Liam said. "We disappear. Where would you suggest?" Jonathan pulled out a map and studied it. "Montana is a good choice. Big territory, not too many people, plenty of places to get lost. Or you could try Oregon, though getting there would be more difficult. Personally, I would suggest Montana. There is a town called Billings north of here. It is growing fast, needs skilled workers. You could find work there and build a new life. And Warren would not be able to find us. Not if you are careful. Change your names, do not tell anyone where you came from. It would not be easy, but it is possible." They stayed in Cheyenne for 2 more days, preparing for the journey north. Liam sold his horse and gear, using the money to buy supplies and a wagon. He did not want Willa riding in the cold for the weeks it would take to reach Montana. Jonathan helped them acquire false documents, giving them new names to use. Liam became Lucas Thorne and Willa became Wendy Oliver. They practiced their new identities, creating a story about being newlyweds from Kansas heading north to start a farm. On their last night in Cheyenne, Jonathan treated them to dinner at a nice hotel restaurant. Over steaks and potatoes, he raised his glass in a toast. "To new beginnings and safe journeys, may you find the happiness you both deserve." They clinked glasses and Liam felt a rush of gratitude for his friend. "Thank you, Jonathan, for everything. Just promise me one thing. When you are settled and safe, send me a letter. I will want to know how the story ends." "It is a deal." The journey to Montana was long and cold and difficult. They traveled through January snow and February ice, camping at night and pushing on during the day. Willa proved to be tougher than Liam had expected, never complaining even when the temperature dropped below 0 and the wind cut through their heavy coats like knives. They passed through small towns and settlements, always moving on after a day or two, never staying long enough for people to remember them. At night, they slept close together for warmth, and gradually their relationship deepened. Liam learned the small things about Willa: how she liked her coffee strong and black, how she hummed while she cooked, how she had a scar on her left shoulder from falling out of a tree as a child. She learned about him too: his fear of deep water, his love of sunrise, the way he talked to horses like they were people. And slowly, carefully, they learned to trust each other. One night, about 3 weeks into their journey, Willa finally let Liam make love to her. It was gentle and slow, both of them nervous and uncertain at first. But afterward, as they lay tangled together in their bedroll, Willa cried, and Liam knew they were tears of relief, of healing. "I did not think I could feel this way again," she whispered. "I thought Warren had taken that from me forever, but with you it is different, it feels right." "It is right," Liam said, kissing her forehead. "You and me, we are right together." They reached Billings in early March, when the first hints of spring were beginning to show in the greening grass and the return of birds. The town was indeed growing, with new buildings going up and businesses opening. Liam found work quickly at a large ranch outside town, working as a ranch hand. It was hard work, but the pay was good and the owner was fair. Willa found work as a seamstress, using the skills her mother had taught her. They rented a small house on the edge of town, not much bigger than Liam's cabin in Wyoming, but it was theirs. They lived quietly that first year, keeping to themselves, always watchful for any sign that Warren might have tracked them. But as the months passed with no sign of trouble, they began to relax. They made friends with their neighbors, attended church socials, became part of the community. Everyone knew them as Lucas and Wendy Thorne, a young couple from Kansas trying to make a life in Montana. One evening in October, almost a year after they had left Wyoming, Willa came to Liam with news that changed everything. "I am with child," she said, her hand resting on her still flat belly. "I am sure of it." Liam felt joy and terror in equal measure. A child, their child. It made their situation more complicated, but it also made it more real. They were building a family together. "How do you feel about it?" he asked carefully. "Scared," Willa admitted, "but also happy. I never thought I would have a baby. Warren did not want children. He said I would make a terrible mother, but with you, I think maybe I could be a good mother." "You will be a wonderful mother," Liam said, pulling her close, "and I will be the best father I know how to be." Their son was born in June of 1885, a healthy baby with Willa's dark hair and Liam's blue eyes. They named him Thomas, after Liam's father. Holding that tiny, squirming bundle for the first time, Liam felt something fundamental shift inside him. He had thought he understood what it meant to love someone, but this was different. This was a love so fierce and protective it almost hurt. Willa took to motherhood like she had been born for it, despite her fears. She was patient and gentle with Thomas, singing to him and talking to him constantly. Liam would come home from work to find them together in the rocking chair, Willa reading aloud from books while Thomas gazed up at her with wondering eyes. For 2 years, they lived in peaceful happiness. Liam was promoted to foreman at the ranch, which came with better pay and a bigger house on the ranch property. They moved out of their rental in town and into this new home, which had 3 bedrooms and a real kitchen. Willa planted a garden and Thomas learned to walk, toddling around the house and getting into everything. Then, one autumn day in 1887, their carefully built peace shattered. Liam was working in the south pasture, checking fence lines when one of the other hands rode up fast, his horse lathered. "Boss wants you back at the house right away. Says there is a man there asking questions about you and your wife." Liam felt his blood turn to ice. He rode back to the house as fast as he could, his mind racing. It had been almost 4 years. He had hoped they were finally safe. But if Warren had found them, if he was at the house with Willa and Thomas. He rode into the yard and saw a strange horse tied to the hitching post. The front door was open and he could hear voices inside, one of them Willa's, high and frightened. Liam jumped off his horse and ran into the house. Willa Oakes stood in the middle of their living room, older and harder than Liam remembered, but unmistakably him. He was holding Thomas, and Willa was standing a few feet away, her face white with terror. "Put my son down," Liam said, his voice deadly calm. Warren turned to look at him and smiled, a cold, cruel expression. "Your son? I think you mean my son, my wife's son. Did you think you could steal my wife and get away with it, Tucker? Or should I say Thorne? That is not your son. You have no claim on him. The law might disagree. Willa is still legally my wife. That means any child she bears is legally mine, even if you are the one who got her pregnant." Thomas started to cry, frightened by the tension in the room and the stranger holding him. Willa took a step forward. "Please, Warren, do not hurt him. He is just a baby. This is between you and me. Let Liam take Thomas outside." Warren considered this, then shrugged and handed the crying child to Liam. "Fine, take the brat. I have no interest in raising another man's bastard anyway. It is you I want, Willa. You ran out on me. You embarrassed me. And then you shacked up with this cowboy and had his kid. Do you have any idea how that makes me look?" "I do not care how it makes you look," Willa said, her voice shaking but determined. "You were going to kill me. I had every right to leave." "You belong to me," Warren said, his voice rising. "The law says so. A wife cannot just run off because she does not like how her husband treats her. And you, Tucker or Thorne or whatever you call yourself, you are going to pay for stealing my property." Liam handed Thomas to Willa, keeping himself between them and Warren. "Get Thomas out of here," he said quietly. "Go to the main house and get the boss." But Willa shook her head. "I am not leaving you alone with him." "Go, Willa, please." She hesitated, then finally moved toward the door, clutching Thomas tightly. Warren made no move to stop her, his attention fixed on Liam. When the door closed behind Willa, Warren's hand dropped to his gun. "You cost me everything," he said. "My wife, my pride, years of my life hunting for you. I lost my homestead because I was too busy looking for Willa to work it. I have been drinking and drifting and barely surviving, all because of you. That is on you, not me. You made yourself into what you are now. You beat your wife and threatened to kill her. What did you think would happen? I thought she would know her place. I thought she would be a proper wife, obedient and quiet. Instead, she ran off and became a whore for some drifter cowboy." Liam's hand clenched into a fist. "Do not ever call her that. Willa is 10 times the person you will ever be." Warren drew his gun, and for the second time, Liam found himself facing down this man with a weapon. But this time, Liam was unarmed. He had left his rifle on his horse, not expecting trouble. "You know," Warren said conversationally, "I could shoot you right now and claim I was defending myself. Hell, I could claim you kidnapped my wife and I was rescuing her. Most sheriffs would believe me. Except you would have to explain how you found us all the way up in Montana. And there are witnesses here who know Willa and me as a married couple with a child. Your story would not hold up." Warren's face twisted with fury and he raised the gun, pointing it directly at Liam's chest. "I do not care anymore. I just want you dead." The door burst open and Willa's boss, Jacob Morrison, stepped in with a shotgun leveled at Warren. Behind him were 3 ranch hands, all armed. "I do not know who you are, mister," Jacob said calmly, "but you are on my property threatening my foreman. I suggest you put that gun down real slow." Warren looked around at the men surrounding him, calculating odds. Finally, slowly, he lowered his gun and holstered it. This is not over. Yes, it is, Jacob said. Get on your horse and ride out. If I ever see you on my land again, I will not ask questions before I shoot. Warren looked at Liam with pure hatred. You think you have won. You have not. I will go to the law. I will tell them you kidnapped my wife. I will make sure everyone knows what you did. Do what you need to do, Liam said. But Willa is never going back with you. That much I promise. Warren left, escorted out by the ranch hands to make sure he actually rode away. When he was gone, Liam felt his legs go weak and he had to sit down. Willa came back in with Thomas, tears streaming down her face. What do we do now? She asked. He knows where we are. He will tell the law. Jacob Morrison, a decent man in his 50s who had been fair to Liam since the day he hired him, cleared his throat. I do not know what your story is, Lucas, and maybe I do not want to know all the details. But I have seen how you treat your wife, how much you love that boy. Whatever trouble you are running from, I am guessing you have good reason. Now, I have some pull with the sheriff in Billings. Let me see what I can do. Over the next few weeks, the situation slowly resolved itself in ways Liam never expected. Jacob did indeed have influence with the local law, and he used it to make sure Warren's accusations were looked into carefully rather than acted upon immediately. More importantly, he hired a lawyer who discovered something crucial. Willa Oakes was wanted in Wyoming for stealing horses. There was a warrant out for his arrest. When the sheriff tried to serve the warrant, Warren was long gone, having ridden out of Montana as fast as his horse could carry him. But the warrant stayed active, which meant if he ever came back, he would be arrested. Meanwhile, the lawyer also filed paperwork for Willa, asking a judge to grant her a legal separation from Warren on grounds of abandonment and cruelty. It took months for the case to work its way through the system, but finally, in the spring of 1888, a judge ruled in Willa's favor. She was legally free of Willa Oakes. The day the papers came through, Liam and Willa rode into Billings together. They went to the courthouse, and with their real names this time, they got married. Liam Tucker married Willa Oakes, who would now be Willa Tucker. No more false names, no more hiding. They were legally, truly, finally united. They celebrated with dinner at the finest restaurant in Billings, just the two of them. Jacob had agreed to watch Thomas for the evening, giving them a rare night alone. Over wine and good food, they toasted to their future. I never thought we would get here, Willa said, her eyes shining. There were so many times I thought Warren would find us that we would have to run again, but we made it. We made it, Liam agreed, raising his glass. To new beginnings. To new beginnings. That night, in the hotel room they had rented for the occasion, they made love with a freedom and joy they had never quite felt before. There was no shadow hanging over them now, no fear that it might all be taken away. They were husband and wife, legally and truly, and nothing could separate them. They returned to the ranch the next day to find Thomas had been spoiled rotten by Jacob and his wife Martha, who had fed him cookies and let him play with their dog. Thomas ran to them, shrieking with delight, and Liam scooped him up and tossed him in the air, making him giggle. "How was the wedding?" Martha asked with a knowing smile. "Perfect," Willa said, and the happiness in her voice made Liam's heart swell. The years that followed were good ones. Liam continued to work as foreman at the Morrison Ranch, and Jacob eventually offered to make him a partner in the operation. With his share of the profits, Liam was able to buy a small piece of land adjacent to the ranch, where he started building his own herd. Willa continued her seamstress work, but now she did it from home, able to spend more time with Thomas. She had a natural talent for design, and her reputation grew. Women from all over the area would come to her for dresses and alterations. Thomas grew into a bright, energetic boy who loved horses and the outdoors. He would follow Liam around the ranch whenever he could, learning about cattle and roping and all the skills of ranch life. Liam taught him to ride when he was 5, and to rope when he was 7. By the time he was 10, he was a capable ranch hand in his own right. In 1890, Willa gave birth to their second child, a daughter they named Sarah. She had Willa's dark hair and green-gray eyes, and from the moment she was born, she had both Liam and Thomas wrapped around her tiny finger. Where Thomas was adventurous and bold, Sarah was thoughtful and gentle. She loved books and flowers and helping her mother in the garden. 2 years later, another son arrived. They named him James, and he was the perfect combination of his siblings, brave like Thomas but gentle like Sarah. The house, which had seemed so large when it was just Liam and Willa, was now full to bursting with noise and love and life. Liam sometimes thought back to that day in the snow, when he had first seen Willa walking barefoot through the drifts. If someone had told him then that she would become his wife, the mother of his children, his partner in building a life, he would not have believed it. But life had a way of surprising you, of taking you down paths you never expected. One evening, when the children were in bed, and he and Willa were sitting on the porch watching the sun set over the Montana mountains, Willa leaned her head on his shoulder. "You ever regret it?" she asked. "Giving up your ranch in Wyoming, taking on all my troubles, changing your whole life?" Liam thought about it, really thought about it. He thought about the cabin he had left behind, the small herd of cattle, the simple life he had been building for himself. Then he thought about the woman beside him, the 3 children sleeping inside, the life they had built together. "Not for 1 second," he said. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Willa. You and our children. I would give up 100 ranches for this." She kissed him, soft and sweet, and they sat there together as the stars began to come out, grateful for all they had survived and all they had built. Years continued to pass in a happy rhythm. Thomas grew into a fine young man, tall and strong like his father, with his mother's kind heart. When he turned 19, he announced he wanted to start his own ranch, and Liam helped him stake a claim on land to the east. Watching his son ride off to build his own life, Liam felt proud and sad in equal measure, but mostly he felt grateful that Thomas had the freedom to choose his own path. Sarah, at 17, was pursued by half the young men in the county, but she was in no hurry to marry. She had inherited her mother's skill with a needle and had started a successful business making wedding dresses. Willa worked alongside her, and the two of them were closer than most mothers and daughters ever managed to be. James, at 15, was still deciding what he wanted to do with his life. He loved the ranch but also had a talent for numbers, and had talked about maybe studying to be an accountant. Liam encouraged him to follow whatever path made him happy. In 1905, on a warm summer day, Liam and Willa celebrated their 20th anniversary. Their children threw them a party, inviting friends and neighbors from all over the county. Jacob Morrison, now in his 70s and mostly retired, gave a toast that made Willa cry. "I have known Liam Tucker for more than 20 years, he said, "and I can honestly say I have never met a better man. He is honest, hardworking, and devoted to his family. And Willa, you are the strongest woman I have ever known. What you two have built together, the life you have created, the children you have raised, it is an inspiration to us all. Here is to 20 more years and 20 more after that." Everyone cheered and clinked glasses, and Liam looked around at all these people who had become their community, their family, and felt overwhelming gratitude. That night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet, Liam and Willa walked out to the pasture behind their house. The grass was high and sweet-smelling, and the moon was full overhead. "You remember the first time you told me you loved me?" Willa asked. Of course. In my cabin in Wyoming, I was terrified you would say no. I was terrified too. Terrified to trust you, terrified to hope that I could have something good after everything with Warren. But you proved me wrong. Every single day for 20 years you have proved me wrong. You are nothing like him. You are kind and gentle and good. You made me better, Liam said. Before I met you, I was just drifting, working and surviving but not really living. You gave me purpose. You gave me a reason to build something lasting. They stood there in the moonlight, holding hands, two people who had found each other in the worst of circumstances and had built something beautiful together. Thank you, Willa said softly. For what? For giving me your boots that day, for carrying me home. For saving my life in every way a person can be saved. Liam pulled her close, feeling the same rush of love he had felt that first time he kissed her, all those years ago. You saved me too. I just did not know I needed saving until I met you. They stood there for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms under the Montana sky. And if the wind carried their laughter and whispers across the hills, well, that was just fine. They had earned their happiness, had fought for it and sacrificed for it and built it brick by brick, day by day, year by year. Thomas married a sweet girl named Emma when he was 22, and they gave Liam and Willa their first grandchild, a boy they named Liam in his grandfather's honor. Holding that baby, seeing Thomas's proud and terrified face as he learned to be a father, Liam felt the circle of life completing itself. Sarah eventually fell in love with a schoolteacher named David, a quiet man who loved books as much as she did. They married when she was 23 and moved to Billings, where they opened a shop together, selling books and fine dresses. They visited often, and Sarah was always bringing her mother new books she thought she would enjoy. James did indeed study accounting, going to school in Helena and graduating with honors. He came back to Billings to open his own practice, handling accounts for ranchers and businessmen throughout the county. He married a rancher's daughter named Catherine, and they had twin girls who were the terror and delight of every family gathering. As Liam and Willa grew older, they gradually handed over more of the ranch work to younger men, content to spend their days working in the garden, playing with grandchildren, and enjoying the life they had built. Their house was always full of family, of laughter and noise and love. One evening in 1915, when Liam was 60 and Willa was 57, they sat on their porch as they had done countless times before. Liam's hair was more gray than brown now, and Willa had lines around her eyes, but to him, she was still the most beautiful woman in the world. "Do you know what day it is?" Willa asked. Liam thought for a moment, then smiled. "It is December 15th. 32 years since I found you in the snow. You remembered." "I remember everything about that day, how scared I was that you would freeze before I could get you home. How light you were in my arms, how your feet were blue with cold, how brave you were, walking 10 miles through a blizzard in bare feet rather than stay with a man who wanted to hurt you. I was not brave, I was desperate. Bravery and desperation often look the same. You did what you had to do to survive, and then you built a whole new life from nothing. If that is not bravery, I do not know what is." Willa reached over and took his hand, her fingers fitting perfectly with his as they always had. "We built it together. Everything we have, everything we are, we built it together." "Yes," Liam agreed. "Together." They sat there as the sun set, painting the Montana sky in shades of gold and pink and purple. They had weathered storms and faced down danger. They had worked hard and loved harder. They had raised children and buried parents and celebrated grandchildren. They had lived a full life, a good life, a life worth living. And through it all, from that first moment when Liam had given Willa his boots and carried her to safety, they had been together. Two souls who had found each other in the wilderness and had held on tight, never letting go, building something lasting and true. As the stars began to come out, one by one, Liam felt a contentment so deep it almost hurt. He had everything he had ever wanted and more. A loving wife, healthy children, grandchildren to spoil, a successful ranch, a good community. But more than any of that, he had love. Real, true, lasting love. "I would do it all again," he said suddenly. "Every hard moment, every sacrifice, every fear. I would do it all again in a heartbeat if it meant having this life with you." Willa leaned her head on his shoulder, just as she had done 1,000 times before. "So would I," she whispered. "So would I." And there, on that porch in Montana, with the stars shining overhead and the sound of their grandchildren's laughter drifting from inside the house, Liam Tucker and Willa Tucker sat in perfect peace, grateful for the journey that had brought them here, grateful for each other, grateful for the life they had built from a chance meeting in a snowstorm 3 decades before. Years continued their steady march forward, bringing both joys and sorrows as they always do. Jacob Morrison passed away peacefully in his sleep in 1918, and Liam grieved deeply for the man who had been not just an employer but a true friend. Martha followed him just 6 months later, and Liam and Willa attended the funeral with their children, remembering all the kindness the Morrisons had shown them over the years. The ranch continued to prosper under Liam's management, even as he took on less of the physical work himself. He hired good men and treated them fairly, and in return they were loyal and hardworking. By 1920, the Tucker Ranch was one of the most successful operations in the county, supporting not just Liam's family but the families of a dozen employees. Thomas's ranch was thriving too, and he had 3 children now, 2 boys and a girl. Sarah and David had 2 boys, both of whom loved books as much as their parents. James and Catherine's twin girls were now teenagers, beautiful and smart and full of spirit. Liam and Willa often joked that they had enough grandchildren to start their own town. In 1923, they celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary with a party even bigger than their 20th. All their children and grandchildren were there, along with what seemed like half the county. There were speeches and toasts and dancing, and at one point Liam found himself dancing with Willa in the same way they had danced that first time in his cabin in Wyoming, all those years ago. "You have gotten better at this," Willa teased as he twirled her. "You have not stepped on my feet once." "I have had 40 years to practice," Liam said with a grin. 40 of the best years of my life," Willa said, her expression turning serious. "Thank you for every one of them." "The honor was mine," Liam said, pulling her close. They were in their late 60s now, and both felt the aches and pains of age, but when they were together like this, Liam felt young again. He felt like that 26-year-old cowboy who had fallen in love with a woman he barely knew, willing to give up everything for her. As they grew older, Liam and Willa spent more time remembering, telling their grandchildren stories of the old days. The grandchildren loved to hear about how Grandpa had rescued Grandma in the snow, how he had given her his boots and carried her to safety. They made it sound like a fairy tale, this story of their grandparents' love, and in a way it was. But it was also real. Every scar on Willa's feet from that walk through the snow was real. Every sacrifice they had made for each other was real. Every moment of fear and joy and struggle and triumph was real. Their love was not a fairy tale. It was something better. It was earned. In 1928, Liam's health began to decline. The years of hard work had taken their toll, and his heart was not as strong as it once was. The doctor advised him to take it easy, to let others do the heavy work of running the ranch. Liam agreed, though it pained him to step back from work he had always loved. Willa nursed him through his decline with the same fierce devotion she had shown to everything in her life. She made sure he took his medicine, prepared foods the doctor said were good for his heart, and sat with him for hours, reading to him or just holding his hand. One evening in late spring, as the sun was setting and the birds were singing their evening songs, Liam looked at Willa and said, "I am not afraid." "Afraid of what?" she asked, though she knew. "Of dying. I am not afraid because I have had the most incredible life. I have loved and been loved. I have raised children and seen grandchildren. I have worked hard and built something lasting. I have no regrets, Willa, none at all." Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she smiled through them. "You are not allowed to leave me yet, Liam Tucker. We have at least another 10 years together, you and me." "I will do my best," he promised, squeezing her hand, and he did. Despite the doctor's gloomy predictions, Liam held on. He was weak, but he was determined. He wanted to see Thomas's youngest son graduate from school. He wanted to dance with Willa on their 50th anniversary. He wanted to meet the great-grandchildren he knew were coming. And so he fought, day by day, breath by breath. In 1930, Thomas's oldest son married and gave them their first great-grandchild, a girl named Willa after her great-grandmother. When they placed that tiny baby in Willa's arms, she wept, and so did Liam. To see their legacy continuing, to know that their love had created this whole family, this whole world, was overwhelming in the best possible way. Liam's health stabilized somewhat after that, and the doctor said it might have been sheer force of will that kept him going. Willa thought that was probably true. Her husband had always been stubborn. They made it to their 50th anniversary in 1933. The party was smaller this time, just family, but it was perfect. Their children gave speeches about what their parents' love had meant to them, how it had shaped their own relationships and their own lives. Their grandchildren performed a play they had written about the day Grandpa found Grandma in the snow. And their great-grandchildren, all 3 of them now, made noise and demanded attention and filled the house with life. That night, after everyone had gone home or to bed, Liam and Willa sat on their porch one more time. Liam was tired, more tired than he had ever been in his life, but he was happy. 50 years, Willa said wonderingly. "Sometimes it feels like just yesterday you were giving me your boots. Other times it feels like we have been together forever." "We have been together forever," Liam said. "Or at least that is how it feels to me. I cannot remember a time when I did not love you. I love you too, more than I can ever express. You saved my life, Liam. Not just that day in the snow, but every day since. You showed me what love was supposed to be. You gave me a family, a home, a life worth living. I cannot imagine what I would have become without you." "You would have been fine," Liam said. "You are strong, Willa. You always have been. But I am glad I got to be part of your life anyway." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars come out. Liam felt his eyelids growing heavy and knew he should go inside to bed. But he wanted to stay here just a little longer, with Willa beside him and the night air cool on his face. "You remember what you said to me that first night in your cabin?" Willa asked. "When I tried to take the floor and you insisted on taking it yourself." "I said a lot of things that night. You said out here we help people when they need it. It is what decent folks do. That has always stayed with me, because you really believed that. You lived it every day. You helped me when I needed it, and you never asked for anything in return." "I got everything I could ever want in return," Liam said. "I got you." Willa leaned over and kissed him, gentle and sweet, a kiss that held 50 years of love and partnership and devotion. When she pulled back, Liam saw tears on her cheeks again. "No more crying," he said, wiping them away with his thumb just as he had done so many times over the years. "This is a happy day, We have made it 50 years. That is worth celebrating, not crying over." "They are happy tears," Willa said. "I am just so grateful for all of it, for you." "I am grateful too," Liam said, and he was. Grateful beyond measure. Liam lived for 2 more years, growing gradually weaker but never losing his sharp mind or his sense of humor. He died peacefully in his sleep on a warm July night in 1935, with Willa lying beside him. She woke at dawn to find him gone, and though her heart shattered at the loss, she was grateful that he had gone peacefully, without pain or fear. The funeral was attended by what seemed like the entire county. Liam had touched so many lives over the years, had helped so many people, had been friend and mentor and employer to dozens. His children spoke about what a wonderful father he had been. His grandchildren spoke about his kindness and wisdom. And Willa, though she could barely get the words out through her tears, spoke about the love of her life. "He saved me," she said simply. "In the snow, yes, but also in every way that matters. He showed me that there are good men in this world. He showed me what real love looks like. He gave me a family and a home and 52 years of happiness. I will miss him every day for the rest of my life, but I will never regret a single moment we had together. He was the best man I ever knew, and I was blessed beyond measure to be his wife." There was not a dry eye in the church. Willa lived for 7 more years, surrounded by her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, all of whom loved her dearly. She kept up her seamstress work almost to the end, her fingers still nimble even as the rest of her body grew frail. She told stories about Liam constantly, keeping his memory alive for the younger generations who had not known him as long as she had. On December 15, 1942, exactly 59 years after Liam had found her in the snow, Willa passed away quietly in her sleep. Her children found her in her bed, a peaceful smile on her face, and on the nightstand beside her was an old pair of worn leather boots. Liam's boots, the ones he had given her that first day. She had kept them all these years, a reminder of where their story had begun. They buried her next to Liam in the cemetery overlooking the valley they had loved so much. The headstone was simple. Liam Tucker, 1857–1935, and Willa Tucker, 1866–1942, together forever. And they were together, in the hearts of their children and grandchildren, in the stories that would be passed down through generations, in the ranch they had built and the community they had served, in the love that had sustained them through every hardship and triumph. Years later, when the grandchildren told the story to their own children, they always started the same way. "It was a cold December day in 1883, and your great-great-grandmother was walking barefoot through the snow. She was running from danger, from a man who wanted to hurt her, and she thought she might die out there in the cold. But then your great-great-grandfather came along. He was a cowboy, a good man, and when he saw her feet were bare and bleeding, he took off his own boots and gave them to her. Then he lifted her up in his arms and carried her to safety. And that was the beginning of one of the greatest love stories ever told. And it was a love story that had started with an act of simple kindness and had grown into something that spanned decades, that created a family, that changed lives. A love story that proved that sometimes the best things in life come from the worst circumstances. That sometimes, when you least expect it, you find exactly what you have been looking for. Liam and Willa Tucker's story lived on, passed down through generations. A reminder that true love is real, that sacrifice is worth it, that kindness matters. Their legacy was not just the ranch or the business or the property they left behind. It was the love they had shared, the family they had created, the lives they had touched. And somewhere, perhaps, on cold December nights when the snow falls thick and white across the Wyoming plains, two souls walk together, hand in hand, forever young, forever in love, forever home.